Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 55. So I want to start tonight with a brief but exciting announcement. I am now a teacher on Insight Timer, which is a free app you can download on your phone or you can go to their website. There are a ton of different styles of meditation. There are yoga teachers on there. It's a really great resource. I think you can pay for a subscription if you want an upgraded service, but most of the meditations are free. And right now I've got a couple guided meditations on there. I've got a couple of my kirtans up. I will be working to get some more content on that site. And I'm actually considering perhaps putting some of these Wind Down Wednesday meditations, just the actual meditation, on Insight Timer at some point. So one of the things I love about Insight Timer is that there's the opportunity there to donate directly to the teacher if you listen to a meditation and you really like it. And I've been meaning to mention that if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, you can also support me directly. There's a link in the notes on the podcast that say support this podcast, and you can go there and actually donate to kind of help keep this whole practice going. I really enjoy it, but it's always nice to receive some gratitude in the form of compensation. So tonight we're going to talk about locating negativity in the body. And I want to talk about this first by explaining how I came to this topic, because I think it will make more sense if I give my example first. And as is so often the case with spiritual work, this epiphany came to me out of kind of these seemingly like disparate, unconnected events and issues that ended up being completely related, which of course spiritually everything is related. So I don't know why it still surprises me when sometimes I'm like, oh, there was this and there was this, and like, oh no, wait, they're actually all one thing. So I mentioned last week, we talked about burnout, and I talked about how I had been experiencing a little bit of burnout. And I mentioned that part of that seemed to be that like nothing seemed to be working for me. Emotionally, things weren't working for me. Technologically, things weren't working for me. I had a heck of a time getting my stuff on Insight Timer. Initially, they kept getting kicked back for just little technical reasons. So internally and externally, I just kind of felt like I kept beating my head against a wall. I just didn't feel like things were really working for me. And I was kind of trying to figure out what was going on, but I was also sort of burnt out. So I was just kind of like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just like, I'm going to turn a different direction and try to get back into flow. And I kind of left that stuff alone. And so then over the weekend, I went to my beautiful women's circle, virtually a full moon women's circle. And I was talking a little bit about all these new energies that are coming into my being through this dimensional frequency expansion and just all the shift that's been going on, and then my feelings about how nothing was really working. And as I was talking, I realized that I had gotten stuck in this loop of negativity, and it's kind of a vicious circle. So if we're acting on these kind of negative thought patterns, then we start to see negativity reflected back to us, and we start to have external experiences that feel negative. And then that reinforces this negative thought pattern, and then we get more negativity that comes back to us, and it really can spiral out of control pretty quickly. And so I recognized that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I need to pay attention to this. I need to do some processing work with this. And I kind of put that to the side. And so seemingly unrelated to this, I've been dealing with a lot of stomach pain, belly pain, and kind of bloating and just discomfort, and thinking it was related to my endometriosis, which it very well might be. This is not mutually exclusive. There can be a physical component as well as a spiritual and emotional component when you're having physical pain. But I wasn't thinking about it physically or spiritually. I was thinking about it just physically, and it was really, I wasn't feeling very good. I didn't have a lot of energy. I just was having a lot of pain and discomfort. And so yesterday I did some Kundalini yoga, which is one of my favorite tools to move energy, because I did feel like there was some stagnation going on. And I thought, okay, well, if I could move this energy through, maybe I can get this pain and this bloating and discomfort to release. So as I was doing this Kundalini practice, I realized that I'm actually holding negativity physically in my belly. And I'm going to go into the mechanics of exactly what I'm talking about in a minute. But I was guided into a meditation after I finished my practice. And I was led into this very specific memory of being about 14 years old and being bullied by some other girls. And I saw in this meditation that that was the moment that this pattern of holding negativity in my belly was cemented in my body. This is when my body said, yes, this is where we hold this negative energy. And so that kind of led into this inner child work that I did to kind of heal and to alter that pattern. And I'll get a little bit more into how that worked, because we're going to repeat that meditation tonight. That's the meditation that we're going to do, is the one I was guided into yesterday. But I want to talk through that, because again, there was like 3 or 4 different things there that I didn't see as related that were very related. So first, I didn't realize I was in a negative kind of loop thought pattern. Then I didn't realize that was related to my body. And then I didn't know how to clear it at first until I was guided into the meditation. So we tend to think of negativity as a thought pattern. You know, something bad is going to happen to me. Bad things always happen to me. I have bad luck. Nothing ever works out for me. This is the kind of thinking that I'm talking about. This negative thinking that, you know, things aren't going to work out in whatever way that presents. And so we think about this as a mental pattern, and it is, absolutely it is. But as we talked about a few weeks ago now, underneath our thoughts are always emotions. And emotions are stored energetically in the physical body. And that we did a whole show on that a few weeks ago. So underneath this mental thought pattern of negativity are some fear-based emotions. And these are emotions like shame and guilt and scarcity and anger and that feeling of being unworthy. These are the things that kind of are lurking underneath this negative thought pattern. They're feeding this negative thought pattern. And again, emotions are held energetically in the physical body. So our negative thought patterns, yes, they exist in the mental space, but they're really, the root of them is really being held in our physical body. So when we do things cognitively to change our thinking, that's very important. Cognitive behavioral therapy addresses both of those things. You know, we can do affirmations, we can do work to kind of change our thought pattern. But if we're not changing the underlying emotions and we're not releasing those stored emotions from the body, then we're missing a huge component of that spiritual processing process that we've discussed frequently. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. If you want to learn more about spiritual processing, you can head to my website, which is paulataylorenergy.com. It's the most recent blog post, and I go into a lot more detail about exactly what spiritual processing is. But essentially, if we can locate where we're storing our negativity, where these fear-based emotions are living in the body, where they're being held, then we have the opportunity to release it. And we can do that using those steps of spiritual processing. So step 1 is awareness. I'm having a negative thought pattern. That's what happened to me. I realized as I was kind of talking about what was going on, oh, I'm caught in this like loop of negativity. And that's why external things aren't working out for me, because I'm projecting this negativity out into my energetic field, and then it's getting reflected right back to me in these encounters that I'm having with, you know, whatever it is, people, technology, whatever. So you've got to have that awareness that it's actually happening, that you are thinking negatively. But then you've got to have a second layer of awareness there, that it's being stored in the body, and locating where that is in the body. And that was what happened to me. And again, we're kind of going into and out of some of these steps of spiritual processing, because for me, that mental, so I had my awareness, I started my mental processing in my women's circle, where I had that little epiphany, and I started thinking about this. Oh, this is what's happening. I'm not quite sure what to do about it yet, but I know what's happening. I'm kind of processing it in my mind. I hadn't gotten into the emotional, physical body yet. So then step 3 is that emotional and physical processing. And so I started that by doing Kundalini yoga, which is a physical practice that's specifically designed to move energy. And it's really interesting. I didn't pick a class that was about negativity. And in fact, the teacher said nothing about negativity until the very last second we had ended with this meditation, and it was very light and ephemeral, and I was feeling really expanded. And then right at the end, she said something about letting go of negativity, and that anything negative that comes to us is just transported into and transformed into divine energy, into love. And I was like, oh, clearly I did not come to this coincidentally. I was meant for this yogic practice today. So that was my emotional and physical processing. And then I kind of went back into the mental space through that meditation. Like, how do I release this? What do I need to do? I've started moving this energy through my body, but what do I need to do to physically release it from the body? I've located it. I understand what it is. I started moving it, but now it's sort of activated, and it's like, I recognize this now. I really see what this is, and it's really uncomfortable, and I don't really like it, and what do I do? And so I ended up being led into that meditation and doing some inner child work. And that's definitely emotional. There's a mental aspect to that as well. But then the final release, the physical release of that, was that I began to cry. And so then in that way, I was able to release that energy. I was able to hold my beautiful 14-year-old self, who, if you had called her beautiful, would have hid behind a rock for the rest of her life. And basically her whole kind of life was trying to hide. I posted a video about that on Instagram and on TikTok. And so I told her, you don't have to hide anymore. We are not hiding. We are allowing ourselves to be expanded and to be big and beautiful and bright, just the way that we were always meant to be. And so I created space for her to expand into that, to feel really loved, and to recognize that she was loved even if she couldn't see it at that moment. And then I had a nice emotional release. I cried some tears. And then I just felt so much better. And like instantly, my experiences started to shift. I had kind of a negative interaction with someone, changed right away into a positive interaction, without any effort on my part other than the work I did on myself. And that's such a powerful example of how we are really seeing reflected in others what we are giving off ourselves. And so often what we're giving off ourselves is completely unconscious. We are not aware of it. And that's why we do this spiritual work. That's why we sit in meditation and we come back to presence over and over again, because then it allows us, it took me a few days to get there, but once I got my awareness, I knew exactly what to do. I've got my awareness. I'm going to mentally process it. I'm going to physically, emotionally process it. And then I'm going to let it go. And that's that bonus step of spiritual processing. So tonight we are going to do that kind of a meditation. We are going to kind of get into that space of recognizing, and your negativity, what's underlying your negativity might be different than mine. And I've talked a lot about what underlies my negativity tends to be doubts about my worth. like this idea that I have to earn my worth in some way. I have to earn my worth by being beautiful and thin and perfect and never making a mistake and all of these things that I am working to still let go of. But what's underneath your negative thinking might be scarcity thinking, that there's not enough of something, that you feel like you're in competition all the time. It might be anger. It might be, that you are angry about a situation. You're angry about the way you were raised, or a trauma that happened to you. And so you lash out at people out of anger, and you don't have any idea why. Your underlying emotion might be fear. You might be afraid to step into relationship with people because you've been hurt so many times before. So there's a lot of ways that this can manifest, but we're going to invite whatever is specific to you to come into your awareness tonight. And then we're going to look for the origin. And I was led instantly, intuitively to the origin. And I was actually really surprised, because it was a memory that I remembered. It was like, oh yeah, I remember exactly when this happened. But it wasn't something that I would have looked back at necessarily and been like, oh, that was really traumatizing. I don't know how I survived that. It was just like a brief run-in with some girls who were bullying me. And it kind of bullied me. It was a continual thing, but there was a specific event and moment that I was led to. So I'm going to encourage you, as always, to just be really intuitive with this. If nothing comes to you, then just get into that relaxed presence and don't worry too much about trying to force anything. You may come back and repeat the meditation, and the next time you do it, all sorts of things will come up. You may have just some awareness that, like I wasn't thinking that I was in this negative thought pattern, but, we're not perfect. As I say every week, we're perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. And so a lot of times things are going on underneath the surface that we're not really aware of. And as much work as we do, as much as we step into love and we choose love over fear over and over again, that fear is still there. That ego, we can't get rid of that ego. So when the ego steps into the driver's seat and says, oh, everybody's out to get me, I gotta put up my shields, or whatever it is that your ego is telling you, we're trained to listen to that. We've spent a lot of our lives listening to that tape of bleh. And so it takes a little while to step out of it. It takes some time to recognize it. But once you see it, once you shine a light on anything, it loses its power. You may have to work with it. You may have to process for a while. But that initial step into awareness, if that's as far as you get tonight, that's amazing. Just coast through the rest of the meditation and let yourself be grateful that you've uncovered this understanding about what's going on kind of underneath the surface of your conscious mind. So I have one more thing I want to say before we get into our meditation tonight. And I'm a little bit surprised that I've never talked about this before. I may have briefly mentioned it, but I've never really brought awareness to it. I've never really consciously talked about this. And so I want to talk a little bit about dedicating your practice. And that's something we do really often in yogic practice. You can do it in meditation. Any kind of spiritual practice can always be dedicated. And there's a few different ways to do this. You can dedicate it specifically to one person for a specific reason. You can dedicate it to one person for the highest good. You can dedicate it to a group of people, or to your family, or to all the people in your life that you come in contact with. You can dedicate it just to the collective at large for the highest good. So what comes to you intuitively in terms of dedication is usually the right thing. And then there's a couple of times that you can dedicate your practice. So you can dedicate your practice at the very beginning of your practice. You can state an intention to dedicate your practice to whatever it ends up being. You can also dedicate your practice at the end of your practice, when you're in that kind of expanded, grateful state of opening and bliss. You can send that energy, you can gift that energy to a person or people, the planet, animals, plants, whatever, any kind of being. You can always dedicate your practice to. And Again, I'm a little bit surprised that I've never mentioned that before, or I may have mentioned it briefly, but I've never talked in depth about that at all. So tonight, I would like to dedicate my practice to a really close friend who is really deeply in grief. This is the birthday of a really close loved one that she lost. And if you've ever lost someone, you know that birthdays can be really, really, really difficult. So I would like to dedicate my practice to her tonight. And I invite you, if you're practicing with us tonight or later, if you feel called to, if you feel so moved, to state the intention to hold this person in our light and our love, to make space for her so that she can grieve freely while we hold her in our love. So let's meditate together now. So get nice and comfortable, as we always do. Let your intuition guide you in terms of position tonight. If you'd like to sit up, make sure some part of your body is contacting the ground. If you'd like to lie down, it's best to lie down on the ground if you can. And let yourself start by taking 3 of those deep, beautiful oxytocin breaths in through the nose, filling up the belly as you breathe in through the nose, and then sighing them out with that audible ha sound. Do that at least 3 times. Feel yourself start to come present in your body, letting go of anything you were thinking about or doing before you stepped into this meditation, letting go of anything you need to do after this, just allowing yourself to be fully present in this practice for the next several minutes. Take a few more deep breaths directly into any areas of tension you're holding in your body. And as you do that, begin to scan your body just lightly with that question in mind. Where do I hold negativity in my body? And you might get more than one answer. There might be more than one location. That's fine. For the purposes of this meditation, just go with whatever calls to you most strongly. You can always return and repeat this meditation as many times as you like. And as you're getting comfortable here, as you're getting fully present, as you're maybe starting to receive some answers about where you might be holding negativity, allow that crown chakra to open and invite that unconditional light and love of divine energy to flow in through the top of your head. Let it fill your face and your jaw, your neck and throat. Let it come into your chest and upper back. Allow it to flow freely into your arms, through the upper arms and elbows, into the wrists and hands. Allow this beautiful golden light and love of divine energy to flow in to the belly and the mid-back. Let it come into the low belly and the low back. And again, as you do this, just paying attention to the body, noticing if you're getting any hits on where you might be holding negativity, where you might be carrying that around. Allowing that energy to flow into the hips and pelvis, really looking around here. Maybe glancing back up through the torso into the chest and throat. Just seeing if you're getting any answer about where that negativity is being stored. Take a nice, big, deep oxytocin breath. Draw that energy down through the head and the torso into the hips and pelvis. And as you sigh it out, blow that energy, flow that energy down through the legs, into the knees and the lower legs, the shins, the calves, the ankles and feet. Take one more really nice deep breath, sigh it out, and as you breathe out, scan through the entire body and notice where you're going to focus tonight. Let your intuition call you to the area of your body. You can place a hand or two there if you'd like. If it's in the back of your body, you can place your hand on the front, just in the corresponding area. If it's in your legs or feet, you can place your hand or hands on your knees with the intention of focusing on the feet. If it's in your neck or your throat, you could gently rest a hand there, gently rest a hand on your forehead, or just allow your intention to be in that area. Allow your energetic sanctuary to come into your space now. Draw that planet to you. If you're not familiar with that practice, just imagine that you're sitting in the most beautiful, the safest location you can possibly imagine. This is your energetic sanctuary. Nothing and no one can enter this space without your permission. Let yourself come home to this space now. If you'd like, you can travel to your healing cave if you're familiar with that concept. If not, just let yourself be intuitively drawn to the right area for you to continue this meditation. Perhaps you're sitting next to your waterfall of joy. You're just in that safest of sanctuaries where you first come in to your safe space. And once you get settled there, bring your awareness back to the part of your body where you feel that you might be holding negativity. And let yourself ask the question, when did I first start storing this fear-based energy here? When was the first moment that I began to hold on to this negativity in this area? And as always, the first answer or the strongest answer is your intuition guiding you. So just let yourself surf that wave. Don't try to control it. If nothing comes up, that's absolutely fine. Just allow yourself to relax in your sanctuary. Just send some love into that part of your body. But if you've gotten an answer, if you've gotten a memory or a moment or just a general picture of the age you were when this happened, draw that version of you to yourself now. And draw that version of yourself to your current self with so much love. Be really gentle with this. Whatever this was, this trauma that happened, let yourself know that they were not at fault for it, that it had nothing to do with their worth as a person. Ask yourself here, your past self, what did you need in this moment? And then offer them that with love, freely, just the way you would a beloved child. This is your beloved child. This is you, and you are your beloved. Let yourself feel that. Let your past self feel that. Even if it was just 3 days ago and this is not a child version of yourself, send love to this past self as though he, she, they is a beloved child, a beloved part of yourself, because they are. If they needed a hug in this moment, give them a hug. They needed a gift in this moment, gift them with whatever comes to you intuitively. If they just needed someone to listen and be understanding about the situation, then provide that space for them. and allow them to feel how safe you are now. Even if they didn't feel safe then, you're completely safe now, and you can gift that safety to them. You can't change what happened in that moment, but you can change how your body is continuing to respond to it by offering this past self, this situation, love and understanding. If emotions come up, just let yourself express those emotions. That is the physical release of this energy beginning to move this stuck, negative, fear-based energy that you've been holding on to for however long it's been. Allow it to release now, to whatever degree it can release. Perhaps you need to get up and jump up and down or move your legs and shake around a little bit. Let yourself do something physically here. Maybe you're just breathing and the breath alone is moving energy. Only you know the best way to move this energy. Maybe you just need to shrug your shoulders a few times. Maybe you need to yell and scream. You can do that silently if you're not in a physical location to do that. You can think, scream in your mouth, in your mind, and then open your mouth and make no noise at all. And that has the same effect. Not quite the same, but close. Perhaps you're called to vocalize or tone here as we've been working on, and let yourself have no judgment about this. Maybe you're making grunting noises or strange, unpretty noises. If that's what you're called to do, let yourself do that here. That's a beautiful way to move energy. No one's listening to you. No one's judging you here. Show your past self that they didn't need to be judged at that moment and that you don't judge them now. Show them how far you've come in letting go of judgment, how far you've come in your spiritual journey of stepping into flow, of releasing, of recognizing and living a conscious life. Show them how much hope there is for their future. Even if you haven't been feeling particularly hopeful in your life right now, you have come so far from this trigger moment. Even if all the progress you've made was just in this meditation, you've come so far. Let your past self see that. Let your current self see that. And remember that your worth does not depend on anything external. It doesn't depend on how much you do, how much you produce, how much you earn love. Your love is inherent. You are unconditionally loved by divine energy, by whatever higher power you believe in. Let yourself feel that now. Let your past self feel that as well. Take a nice big deep breath into the belly. Really sigh it out. Now let out any sounds that need to come out. Do that at least 2 or 3 times. You can do a lion's breath where you breathe in through the nose and then loudly exhale with your tongue out. Do that 2 or 3 times with the focus of releasing some of that stuck energy, that held negativity in the body. You don't need to hold on to that anymore. Show your past self that you're ready to let it go and allow them to be free. Free of this negativity that started getting stored in the body in this moment, in this time period. Really exhale all your breath out. If you start to cough, that's good. That means you're getting that energy out. Do that as many times as you'd like. And then just come totally still for a few moments. Perhaps you're still embracing your former self. Perhaps you allow that past self to merge into your current self, into this flow of divine energy and love that's now flowing through that area that was stuck, that area of holding and stagnation. Even if you just feel the slightest movement, even if you don't feel movement, something has moved here. You set the intention to allow this energy to move, and it will move as it is ready. As you return to this meditation, it will move more each time. And just for the last moment or two here, as you're in your sanctuary, allow yourself to feel grateful for this experience, for this flow of divine love that's coming into your space right now. Allow yourself to expand and to send that love and gratitude out to somebody you love, maybe someone specific. Maybe it's my friend who I dedicated this practice to. If you're choosing to hold her with me, maybe it's just to the collective for the highest good. But spend a moment in service with me here. You've served yourself, and now allow that service to ripple out into your neighborhood, into your family, into the people you encounter on a daily basis, or even just once in a while. And then as you're ready, take one last nice deep breath. You can sigh it out however you'd like. If you'd like, you can gently release your sanctuary or keep it with you for the rest of this evening. You can allow that crown chakra to gently close or leave it open for the highest good. And once more, just feel the gratitude and the bliss and the joy of that flow of divine energy coming in through the top of the head, filling your face and your neck, your shoulders and your hands, your torso and your pelvis, your legs and your feet. Affirm with me out loud, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body, and I am ready to release the patterns of negativity I've been holding in my body. I am fully present in my body, and I move forward into each new moment with love. Your true identity is this unconditional love. Let it flow through every cell of your being in the last few moments of this meditation. See yourself as a beautiful divine being of light you are and were at every moment of your life, even if you couldn't see it at the time. Even if you don't see it now, you are a being of light and love. And your presence here on this planet is a gift. You can take one last deep breath as you'd like. Begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes. You can move your head and neck around if you'd like. Crack all your joints, like me. Give yourself a moment here to release this practice, to come back into the conscious mind. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Let this newly moving energy propel you forward into positive thinking, into love and light and joy. Have a beautiful rest of your night, a positive rest of your week, and I will see you next week for a Wind Down Wednesday.